Nvidia was supposed to be untouchable. The chip empire that powered the entire AI revolution, racing toward a $5 trillion crown nobody thought possible. And then, in June 2026, the impossible happened. A rival exploded out of nowhere and started swallowing the giants of Wall Street whole. This is the story of how the king got rattled, and who's now coming for the throne. Let's rewind. Just a few years ago, Nvidia was a company most Americans had never heard of. It made graphics cards for gamers, fancy parts that made video games look pretty. That was the whole business. Nobody on Wall Street was losing sleep over a graphics chip maker. Today, that same company sits at the absolute center of the global economy. The transformation is staggering. Here's the number that changed everything. Nvidia went from roughly $12 billion in value to over $4 trillion. That's not a typo. $4 trillion. It became the most valuable company on planet Earth, briefly worth more than the entire economies of most countries. And it all happened in just a handful of years. So how did a gaming chip company take over the world? The answer is a small piece of silicon called the GPU. It turns out the same chips that render explosions in video games are also perfect for training artificial intelligence. When ChatGPT exploded and the AI gold rush began, every single company on Earth needed those chips. And there was only one place to get the best ones. Nvidia. They controlled the gold mine. Think about that for a second. If you wanted to build a powerful AI, you had to come to Nvidia first. Microsoft needed them. Google needed them. Amazon needed them. Even Elon Musk needed them. Every tech titan was lining up, checkbook open, begging for chips that were sold out for months. Nvidia could basically name its price. And it did. The man behind it all is Jensen Huang. He founded Nvidia back in 1993, reportedly at a Denny's restaurant in California. For decades, he was a respected but low-profile engineer in a leather jacket. Then the AI boom hit, and suddenly Jensen Huang was one of the most powerful people in business. Rockstar status. Crowds chasing him for autographs. A leather jacket worth billions. His personal fortune ballooned into the hundreds of billions. Huang went from comfortable engineer to one of the richest humans alive, almost overnight. And he did it the hard way, by building actual products that the entire world suddenly couldn't live without. No flashy gimmicks. Just chips. Chips that became the most important manufactured objects on the planet during the AI explosion. By early 2026, Nvidia looked invincible. Profits were exploding. The stock kept setting records. Analysts threw around insane price targets and a $5 trillion valuation. Wall Street had crowned a new king, and his name was Jensen Huang. Nothing, it seemed, could possibly knock Nvidia off its throne. The company had become the beating heart of the entire stock market. When Nvidia was happy, the whole market went up. When Nvidia stumbled, the whole market shook. A single chip company had that much power. Index funds, pension funds, retirement accounts. Millions of Americans owned a piece of Nvidia whether they knew it or not. The entire financial world was leaning on one company's success. That kind of power is rare and dangerous. And then came June 2026. While Nvidia was celebrating, a storm was building somewhere else entirely. Not in a chip factory, not in Silicon Valley, but on a launch pad in Texas, where Elon Musk had been quietly building a rocket empire for over 2 decades. SpaceX was about to do something that would shake Nvidia's crown to its foundation. For years, SpaceX was a private company. You couldn't buy the stock. It launched rockets, deployed Starlink satellites, and stayed off the public market. Then, in June 2026, SpaceX finally went public. The IPO. And what happened next made history. The stock didn't just rise, it detonated. Retail investors rushed in like a stampede. Everyone wanted a piece of Musk's rocket dream. The numbers were absolutely unreal. In just 3 days of trading, SpaceX rocketed past $2.8 trillion in value. 3 days. It leapfrogged Microsoft. It leapfrogged Amazon. Suddenly, Elon Musk's space company was the 4th most valuable company in America, breathing down the necks of the biggest names on Earth. Wall Street had never seen a debut quite like it. Let that sink in. A company that flies rockets and beams internet from space was now worth more than the software empire Bill Gates built over 50 years. More than Jeff Bezos's everything store. The retail buying frenzy was so intense that analysts struggled to keep up. And right behind those giants, Nvidia's crown suddenly looked a lot less secure than it had a week earlier. Now here's where it gets really interesting. SpaceX's surge didn't just threaten Nvidia's ranking. It pulled the entire market upward. The Dow hit record highs. I.e. stocks surged. And a US-Iran peace deal that calmed oil markets added rocket fuel to the rally. It was a perfect storm of optimism. And Nvidia, ironically, rode that wave too, even as its rival stole the spotlight. But behind the celebration, a serious question started spreading across Wall Street. Was this real? Or was it a bubble inflating before everyone's eyes? Some of the smartest investors in the world started whispering the same word over and over. .com, because we've seen markets get this excited before, and it didn't always end well. History has a way of repeating itself. Here's a stat that should make you pause. According to analysts, the stock market just crossed a threshold it's only crossed once in roughly 150 years. One single time before. And the last time a market got this expensive relative to the economy, things got very, very ugly afterward. That's the warning sign flashing in the background of all this celebration. But there's a twist that's keeping the crash warriors up at night for a different reason. Some former investment chiefs argue this isn't 1999 all over again. They point to a historic split in stocks, where the gains are spread differently than during the dot-com mania. That split, they say, might actually be protecting the market from a full-blown reckoning. Might. Nobody's certain. So where does that leave Nvidia? The company is still a monster, still printing profits, still the king of AI chips. But for the first time in years, it's no longer the only story in town. The new shiny object is a rocket company with a charismatic founder and a stock that won't stop climbing. Attention is money, and attention just shifted. And attention shifting matters more than you might think. When investors get bored, they sell. When a flashier rival appears, the money chases it. Nvidia spent years as the undisputed darling of every investor on Earth. Now it has to share the throne with Elon Musk. For Jensen Huang, that has to sting. He built the AI age, and someone else stole the headlines. But let's be fair to Nvidia. This company didn't get to $4 trillion by accident. The demand for AI chips isn't slowing down. Every major company is still spending fortunes building data centers stuffed with Nvidia hardware. Big tech is collectively betting hundreds of billions on AI infrastructure. And almost all of that money flows, one way or another, straight back to Jensen Huang's chips. Think of it like a gold rush. SpaceX is the exciting new prospector grabbing all the headlines. But Nvidia is the company selling the shovels. And in every gold rush in history, the people selling the shovels often make the most reliable money of all. While everyone else gambles on rockets, Nvidia just keeps shipping the tools that power the future. Still, there's a risk hiding in plain sight. Nvidia stock is priced for absolute perfection. Investors expect explosive growth forever. And when a company is priced that high, even a small disappointment can trigger a brutal sell-off. We've seen it happen. Companies report record profits, and the stock crashes anyway, simply because the numbers weren't perfect enough. That's the trap Nvidia now lives in. Meanwhile, SpaceX has its own ticking clock. Some analysts warn that its massive valuation may soon become its own worst enemy. When a company is worth nearly $3 trillion in days, the expectations become impossible to meet. Every quarter has to be a blockbuster. Every launch has to be flawless. The higher the climb, the harder the potential fall. Both giants are walking a tightrope. And there's a fascinating connection between these two companies. Remember how Elon Musk needs powerful AI chips? Where does he get them? Nvidia. Musk's AI ambitions are partly powered by the very company SpaceX just leapfrogged on the leaderboard. Rivals on the stock ranking, but quietly dependent on each other in the real world. The business world is stranger and more tangled than most people realize. So what should ordinary investors take away from all this chaos? When a market gets this hot, fear and greed both spike at the same time. People rush to buy SpaceX out of FOMO. Others panic sell everything because they smell a crash. Experts say the single best move is usually the boring one. Stay calm, stay diversified, and don't chase the hype blindly. Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Nobody actually knows when a music stops. Not the analysts, not the billionaires, not the experts on TV confidently predicting the future. Markets can stay irrational far longer than anyone expects. The same SpaceX surge that looks insane today might look like a genius by in 5 years. Or a disaster. Time decides. What we do know is this. Nvidia changed the world. It took a humble gaming chip and turned it into the engine of the artificial intelligence age. It minted one of the richest men alive. And it proved that a single company can become so important, it practically holds the whole stock market in its hands. That legacy isn't going anywhere, crown or no crown. But the lesson of June 2026 is that no king rules forever. Just when Nvidia thought it had won, a rocket company blasted past Microsoft and Amazon in 3 days flat. The throne everyone thought was permanent suddenly had a challenger. And that's what makes the stock market the greatest drama on Earth. The rankings reshuffle constantly. Today's untouchable giant is tomorrow's underdog. So who really wins this battle? In the short term, SpaceX is grabbing all the glory, the headlines, and the retail money pouring in. But in the long term, the companies selling the shovels, Nvidia, might quietly outlast the hype cycle. Because AI isn't going away. And as long as the world wants smarter machines, it will keep coming back to Jensen Huang's chips. Of course, there's always the possibility that both of them are riding a bubble that eventually bursts. If the market really has crossed a line it's only crossed once in 150 years, then everyone, Nvidia, SpaceX, and the millions of investors cheering them on, could be in for a painful reality check. History is full of giants that fell hard. Picture the dot-com crash. Brilliant companies, insane valuations, endless optimism, and then, almost overnight, trillions of dollars in wealth evaporated. Some of those companies never recovered. Others, like Amazon, eventually became giants. The difference between a bubble and a revolution often only becomes clear in hindsight. We're living through that exact uncertainty right now, in real time, and it's thrilling to watch. Here's the bottom line. Nvidia built one of the most incredible business empires in modern history. It took over the world with a chip nobody understood until it was everywhere. But the moment you stop watching your back is the moment a rival on a rocket comes flying past you. And that's exactly what happened in the wild summer of 2026. The real question now is what comes next. Does Nvidia reclaim its crown and crush the doubters? Does SpaceX keep climbing until it's the most valuable company on Earth? Or does the whole overheated market come crashing down and humble both of them at once? Nobody knows, but you can bet the next chapter of this story is going to be absolutely wild. What do you think? Is Nvidia still the true king, or has SpaceX officially stolen the throne? Drop your prediction in the comments below. And if you love these dramatic money stories about the biggest companies and richest people on Earth, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Because the next trillion-dollar twist is coming sooner than you think. See you in the next one.